doesn't start on fire like that one time.
Yeah, it's done some pretty neat things.
we've dealt with like every tech issue you could possibly imagine
with each separate piece.
I say I have a fire extinguisher in my squad. I just gotta run back to it.
There we go.
This is the OKest Hunter podcast. Never pass on shooter bucks, because that's just meat in the freezer. It's your tag, you hunt how you want. This is OKest Hunter.
Welcome to the OK Center podcast.
I haven't been down here in forever. It's good to be back.
I have a lot of goodies for you, actually.
I saw some boxes upstairs.
You got boxes, you got shirts, maybe a hat. I don't know. Take your pick, buddy.
Cool.
It's a smorgasbord for you.
How you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. That's tuning in, whether you're in the car, on a walk, in the shower. I don't know where people listen to this. They don't tell me. Maybe they shouldn't. I don't want to get too
Probably
weird.
too much information.
But we're presented by Nosler. Nosler Ammunition. They're going to be on the show on May 7th, whatever the Tuesday is, right by Cinco de Mayo. So I'm really mostly looking forward to buying a sipping tequila.
I'll bring chips and salsa.
Yeah,
guac.
honestly, that's a good idea. There's pizza upstairs. I don't know if you had pizza on the way down or not.
I didn't. Holly tried to give me some. She was very gracious, but I just ate before I came.
Yeah. I guess
If you're hungry.
I did the same. I had rookie mistake on my part to eat before
Holly
coming.
offered it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. You know, I'd rather be overprepared than underprepared, which isn't normally like me. But when my wife is present, you get a better version of me. So that's how that works. In any event, so other partners, Latitude, they have a sale on the Rebel platform that's going to be happening here. So stay tuned for that. They also have some new stuff coming out for the Carbon. Oh, Jesus. The Carbon Series speed sticks.
Nailed it.
I think I got
Well
it
done.
right.
And I saw that I know we've talked about potentially having him on, but Curtis Zabel, he does a bunch of film work. He's a hunting guy from Wisconsin, really well established.
Wait.
He did all their video work for their new clips. Did you see that? It's really, really cool.
All right.
I'll put some feelers out there.
Yeah, come on. You can come on the show. Spartan Forge, I pinged Bill. He must be in the trenches working his typical 80 hours per week. So I know that means there's a lot to come there. So just stay frosty, as it were. And then Rack Hub behind you on the wall there, you can see that antler on display. Shed season's pretty much come to a close.
It's getting green.
If you're starting to get mounts back and things like that, like really consider.
Take care of customers. So
Yeah, I hear that. I'm having like some connectivity things. It keeps saying I've lost connection, but our Wi-Fi is good. So it's still everyone's here. Brad is waiting behind scenes. So we do have some guests with us tonight, one virtual, one in studio. We have Eric Anderson and Bradley Wilson with the Wisconsin DNR. You guys are conservation wardens.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, when the squad pulled up, I was like, that did make me a little nervous. And then you came on your uniform, like, yep, definitely making me nervous.
I forgot that who the guest was tonight, and then I pulled up. I was like, "Shit, Eric's in trouble. I should probably just go right by."
So no, we're happy to have you guys on the podcast tonight.
Yeah, welcome.
This
Thanks for
is-
coming.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Yeah, we're really excited to be here. Yeah, thanks for welcoming us into your house, and yeah, excited to talk with you about kind of what we do.
Yeah, I don't know who from the DNR had reached out. I forget. I don't know if it was one of you guys or someone else getting you guys to do these things. You're like, what did you sign me up for? Kind of thing. But I loved the idea when you guys had reached out. I was immediately like, this would be a great topic. I would love to do that. And I apologize for any delay in my behalf because this is a side thing for me. So it's really hard to find time to respond to emails. That being said, kind of, take a second to introduce yourselves if you don't mind, and what your role is and how long you've been with the DNR. Bradley, if you want to go first, since you're virtual, you'll be our guest over there, and then we'll have Eric go next on this side.
Yeah, thank you. My name's Brad Wilson. I've been a Wisconsin conservation warden going on 7 years now. I'm located in Walworth County, so right on the southern border there, right with Illinois.
You said, was it 7 years?
Yes.
That's longer than I've done anything. That's great. And you said you're in a barracks right now. Like, what else are you up to then? Because you're not just.
Yeah, I can kind of go over. I'm actually currently in the reserves for the U.S. Coast Guard, and I actually got called up, and I'm doing my active duty training right now, and I'm located here in this wonderful barracks. So,
Did you just get called up? Was that a recent thing?
So, yep, I got called up. It was last week, Wednesday. Got called up, got orders, and I had to be where I needed to be in last Wednesday. So I've been here, and I'll be here for a little bit. So,
yeah. Well, thank you for your service. That's awesome. Eric, how about you? How long have you been doing what you're doing?
Yeah, so I am going on 3.5 years. So I guess compared to Brad and some of our other staff, I'm still relatively fresh into the warden profession, but very much enjoying this opportunity with the DNR and all the different cool stuff that I get to do as being a warden. I work out of Milwaukee County, which is probably a unique station for a game warden to be working in Milwaukee County. But with the big city that we have there, we certainly have a lot of great resources when it comes to fishing and different recreational vehicle stuff with boats and everything along those lines. And surprisingly, there are a few places where you can still hunt. So you get into still a little bit of everything, just with a little bit more of an urban feel.
Sure.
So
It's just a different weight of, like, we all think of, like, I don't know, conservation wardens as being in the woods, but here you've got a giant harbor to deal with.
Yeah,
And you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, it's just your work is allocated a little bit differently than what most people probably think.
Yeah, not uncommon for me to have skyscrapers in the background, but it doesn't mean that the resources aren't still there to protect. I was talking to some people recently that traveled in from 10 plus hours away to try and see if they could still catch a brown trout in the harbor. And we have some great resources there to ensure they're there for the future.
Can you tell me about some of these hunting spots in Milwaukee?
We have a sneaky little spot in Franklin. There's a little chunk of DNR land that's part of the Big Muskego wildlife area.
Okay. My dad probably knows about that.
Yeah.
He knows all the sneaky spots, and he's in Muskego, so I'm willing to bet. And if he doesn't,
Your
when
dad's
he's
going,
listening, he's
damn it,
gonna go,
Eric,
"Oh,
shut your mouth."
Yeah, exactly.
damn spot."
I don't know. In today's world, there's not too many secrets, especially when it comes to
With GIS mapping and
Yeah.
whatnot. I mean, and just, it's tough. It's tough.
yeah.
It's
no.
easy.
It's an area where the DNR's done a lot of good work too, with putting out our different public land access maps and voluntary public access stuff for especially like turkey season.
Yeah.
And definitely if people haven't gone and explored on those different mapping resources, jump on the DNR website and see what you can find.
Well, I'll let either one of you answer this first question, but like, how would you describe what your role is? Or I guess if we're calling this a day in the life, I think we could start with what is your role? How would you define that for each of you, given that you're in different stations? And then what is a day in the life kind of like, if we want to go into that kind of as a next segue?
I'll let Brad tackle his role.
Yeah, so I have a lot of different roles within the DNR. Obviously, right now, me and Eric are on the recruitment committee. One of those jobs is trying to recruit future wardens for the wonderful service that we work for. Promoting the service, basically going over what we do, basically the safe use of our natural resources, and the education to the public to hunting and fishing, assisting people within hunter education and boating education and all of the educational classes, and assisting our partners within the DNR when it comes to water regs or environmental cases and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, kind of like Brad said, as conservation wardens, we are the law enforcement branch or arm of the Department of Natural Resources. So we have statewide law enforcement authority over DNR regulated activities. So, what are DNR regulated activities? Hunting, fishing, trapping, recreational vehicles, so boating, ATVs, snowmobiles, off-highway motorcycles, and then environmental concerns also. So, like Brad talked about, with different things when it comes to like water regulations or big spills, or another area where we might get involved, or different littering or hazardous waste and things. So the environmental stuff gets pretty broad and complex. And then we also have a real specific focus on DNR lands, or Wisconsin state lands. So making sure that people are visiting our state parks, state forests, wildlife management areas, different things along those lines. Making sure that people are following all the normal rules and regulations. We have full police authority at our state parks and different state properties. So, similar to, a sheriff in Waukesha County, we have the ability to enforce all laws on those state properties.
That's a lot to know. It's like some laws and then some.
It covers such a wide spectrum, like the UTV, ATV being legalized on roadways, which was a while ago now, but I know that's really changed. Like a lot of different townships have it legalized, and then you have trails in the northern part of the state, and it's like that's a whole other can of worms outside of what you were already dealing with. That now registrations and following speed limits, and that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I'd say that's one of the things where I think when you're new to it, it is a lot that's coming at you. So I think the analogy that we commonly hear is you're drinking out of a fire hose, trying to learn not only how to, do all the different traditional law enforcement things, but also how to, regulate those specific DNR activities. So, there can be, quite a bit thrown at you, but we have a really good training program that does a great job at preparing us for anything that we may encounter. But yeah, a little bit more unique than, a state trooper that, may focus more specifically on, the highways and making sure that, people are behaving there, or, compared to a municipal cop that may have, a specific town or, area where they're enforcing those laws. Yeah, we can kind of be anywhere and get involved in a lot of different things. But I think that also is part of what keeps it fresh.
Always interesting. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
there's always something new and different, and there's a little bit of a seasonality to it too.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So in fall, when hunting seasons are kind of going on, that's becomes a big primary focus for us. In winter, when we have snow or when we have ice,
Not much this year, but
yeah, ice fishing, snowmobiling, things along those lines. Summer, those boats, ATVs, UTVs, people out recreating, camping at our state properties. Those are things that really, keep us busy. So, the second that you kind of start to get sick of doing boating enforcement, you get to transition over to
Thank
the
God
hunting
that's over.
and,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
Sure.
it always keeps it fresh for you.
Yeah. have you so you talk about like the UTVs or the side by sides, whatever they're called. The e-bikes have been becoming really popular, and there's the regulations around. You can clear this up because I don't actually know what I'm talking about. Around they're really aimed at people that have private property. Like, can I use them on a bike trail? Can I use them to get out on public land in some way, shape, or form? Like, where does that fall? Is it a gray area because it's motorized but it's electric? Is there,
Yeah. I don't know, Brad, you got any insight on that one? The e-bike stuff does get a little bit complicated when it comes to those different usages.
I think there's a little delay. Did you catch that question, Brad? Oh, are you there?
Is that the TV in the background, or is
Can
it
you hear me?
audio?
Oh,
yeah, there he is.
Did you catch that question about the e-bikes? Was that a no? I think we're glitching.
I
out
can
here.
I can hear you now.
All right. Yeah, there was just some question around like the e-bikes. Are they, what's the gray area with those things on public land? What are the do's and don'ts for the folks that are listening?
I'm losing you.
Shoot.
Some iffy Wi-Fi at the barracks, or is it at the Clark's house?
No, both show strong connections, so I'm not sure what the deal is.
I can hear you now.
Yeah, it's coming in and out. I don't know how much of that you got, but we're just generally trying to get a feel for the e-bike stuff on public land. It's just one of the follow-up questions around do's and don'ts and some of the things that you guys have to enforce. Yeah, no, his connection is showing a little weaker.
For the state properties that I have, specifically in Milwaukee County, I don't really deal with it with hunters using them. But if there's areas where you're not supposed to be motorized, I want to see people pedaling.
Sure.
Like gated paths and stuff, no motorized vehicles.
Yeah.
Not
I want to, I have no issue with the e-bike being engaged, but I like to see people pedaling and not using it strictly as a motorbike.
Sure. That's a good point. I think in a lot of those, they tend to be like you kind of have to pedal to engage.
I've
with
never
it a
been
little
on
bit.
one.
I don't know. I feel
see
like I
them
was on
all
one
over.
a long time ago, but they've probably come a long way since their inception.
Well, and they make all different kinds. Like I see people all the time in town. Like,
Yeah.
like little older lady or a guy going on a ride, and they got like the cruiser style ones, and they're just bebopping around, which is pretty cool.
Versus like all the hunting ones are like the big fat tires and all that stuff. Which even just a mountain bike with fat tires might be navigable to some degree. I don't really know.
No.
But I know some hunters are always looking for the path of least resistance, or how can I get to this spot? Because you're not even the path of least resistance, but sometimes it's a matter of like access, or I need to get somewhere that's far away, or I can only park here, so I don't want to walk 2 miles down the road. And
I'd say main thing is, if you're accessing if you're going to be on a property that has like specific trails, know what those trails can be used for. So if it's, specifically for hiking, or if it's, specifically for cross-country skiing at this point in time of the year, make sure you're following that guidance on those trails. And if they want you to stay specifically on a trail, stay on the trail so that you're not doing further damage to any of the natural areas, creating your own trails.
We lost Brad. I don't know. He might have, his connection was showing degraded a little bit. It was like a yellow, and the bars were showing weak signal. He had a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Which I think there's probably a certain threshold where it doesn't go well.
Okay, gotcha.
And because he's in the barracks would be my lucky guess as to maybe it's a concrete building with some layers above him. You would think in 2024, but
you never know.
Bandwidth. So he popped right back on. We'll see if it's any better.
Can you hear me now?
We got you now, showing stronger green bars. Your connection's showing a 10 out of 10 this time. It was a 7 out of 10 before. So
perfect.
You just keep going up in our book.
Perfect.
Sorry for the complication.
Not many people say that.
Well, some of the comments that are coming through on this, so they took e-bikes to get people to start commenting. I think people are a little nervous with you guys on. So there's like usually there's like 20 comments like out of the gate. What's up, fellas? And it's like it's like, I'm like, is it working? Are we live? Like I see people are watching, but there's nothing. And finally someone said, so I can just add pedals to my dirt bike, eh? Like, no, don't do that. Well, actually, I'd like to see you try. I don't know how that's gonna work out for you, but
If it's your property, go for it. I'd like to see it. Please make a video, send it to us, tag us.
yeah, I'm gonna hunt ducks on my Segway and add pedals, like hand pedals.
Speaking of segues,
Oh,
my
there we have it.
my son
Okay.
got some money from grandpa and grandma for his birthday, and I did not want to give him those little hoverboard things
Yeah.
because I don't want him to take off. He's 7, and he like, don't go far. It means
Yeah.
like nothing. But he convinced mom, if I use my money, can I get one of these things? My wife and I both stepped on it, fell off immediately. He's like doing 360s 5 minutes in. So I'm gonna borrow that for hunting, maybe. Find where it's legal.
That is the challenge. So then, like, you guys are aids in like helping navigate some of these rules and regulations, and I've actually like there's been a number of times where I'm like, oh, I should call the DNR. When I call the DNR, I'm getting like a call center typically. How there's also like I don't know what they're called, guys, but if there's like sometimes there's a designated person to talk to for a certain region. What is that called? Because it's not a warden. It's like
So yeah, there's different ways to contact the DNR. We have a DNR calls like customer service line that people can call into, and that's where I would normally encourage people to start if they have a general question. And I mean, even before that, I think it's surprising the amount of information that is available on the DNR's website.
yeah.
So I think I would, before even necessarily calling somebody, if you feel relatively comfortable using a computer, type whatever you're looking for into the search bar first and see what pops up, because that's often the quickest way to start getting information that's relevant to your question. But if you need something further than that, I would start with our customer service center, and our customer service reps are overall great at being able to, talk with people to try and, understand what is the question. And oftentimes, if it does come to something that is regulatory, and, if they don't know the answer offhand, then they'll try and get in touch or get that individual in touch with somebody that should know more. So if it's understanding the nuance of a certain fish and game law, then they would probably try and get a hold of whoever is that local warden, or if it's something that is regulatory to a specific department like waterway or something, they'd probably get in touch with somebody in that department.
Okay. What are Brad? You've been at it a little bit longer than Eric. What are some of the like I don't know, some of the myths around wardens? Like what, I'll say this, like, unfortunately, the DNR like gets beat up a lot, like on social media, the memes and the commentary and the dog piling. And I've just never been that type. It doesn't, first of all, I'm not that type anyways. It speaks to the brand that we have. However, I don't have, like, you're just human beings doing your job. You're doing the best you can with the information at hand. And I don't think, and it's a lot of it's you're a public entity funded by tax dollars. So when we go to hearings and things of that nature, and like we can voice our opinion, you do listen, not you guys, but the DNR. So Brad, I guess the question is, because I always take like 10 minutes to ask a question, there's usually 10 of them in there, is what are some of the myths that maybe you could bust around? No, wardens won't do this, or we don't do that, or yes, we do this. Maybe you have some anecdotes.
I think the biggest thing is people are, like you said, people are scared of us when we come up. You yourself said it at the beginning when Eric pulled up, you got nervous. I think that's the biggest thing that I try to get a hold of people to educate them, is that one, unlike regular police, that if they're showing up to your house, you've probably done something wrong. If we pull up to you on a boat, 9 times out of 10, we're just checking compliance, just to verify that you're in compliance with all laws. So 99% of the people we deal with are good people. So I just want to get the notion that we're not out there just to give tickets. One of our biggest things for us is education. We want people to enjoy the outdoors just as much as I love the outdoors. So that's one of the biggest things out there, rumors out there that, oh, we're only out there just to give tickets and ruin people's days. But we're not. Will tickets be given? Tickets will be given if they need to be given, but my biggest thing is safety and education of the resources and the outdoors so people can use it wisely.
And it's good to be educated. Like, I think Greg, if you were here, he was out on the big lake salmon fishing on Lake Michigan. I don't know if he's in Milwaukee Harbor or like McKinley or a different one. And yeah, some wardens stopped. They came up to his boat. I don't know if it was wardens or the Coast Guard. He'd done some posts on OKS Fisher Instagram account. If he were here, he'd speak to it correctly and tell me to shut my mouth. And say, no, Eric, it was the whatever. And it was a big vessel. And
I think it might have been the Coast Guard.
I think it was the Coast Guard because it looked.
What color
pretty
was the boat?
official.
We weren't there.
We'd have to go find
the.
it's on their account. But it was one of these where like everything was good except for like one thing. One of the fire extinguishers was like expired, and he's like, "Oh, I wouldn't have realized that. Thanks for telling me." And they didn't give any ticket. It was just more like, you need to go deal with that. And otherwise, good job. Stay safe. And that to me seems like a great experience, and if that were the DNR or a warden, like, I think that's a fine experience, and yeah, the nervousness comes from just being around official things. Like sometimes it's so official. Like we're pretty casual here, we're drinking bourbon and hoodies. It's like, it's interesting that, I mean, of course you guys are just, I always like to say, like, you're just people too, we were chatting before we came down here,
yeah.
Eric upstairs, and you talked about like having a communication degree might be a great conduit into joining, the DNR, becoming a warden. So I don't know if you want to touch on, you mentioned Bradley, like the recruitment effort of things for you two. How does one join how do you become a warden? Like, what is that path or that journey?
Yeah. So currently we are in our open hiring process for wardens, and that started up, I believe, at the beginning of the month and runs through Tuesday, May 7th. And the qualifications aren't anything crazy to be able to apply. At the time of hire, you have to be 21 years of age. You can't have a felony conviction or a domestic conviction. You have to get 60 college credits by the time you're within 5 years of employment as a warden. There's, I think, some other things regarding your driving record, so just so you can show that you have the ability to be able to operate a state vehicle. But it's not really anything crazy regarding the real black and white qualifications. I think in kind of a broader spectrum, we're looking for good people.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily need to hire somebody that's overly specific into one thing. I think the main thing that we want to see is that you're a good person, and that if we provide you the right environment for training, that you are going to learn from that and progress and learn how to become a good warden from that. So I think that's kind of the basics that we're looking for.
We do have a caller. I think he's a regular. I think he's called into the show 3 times. He follows us on social. It's David Nowakowski. He said he was calling to talk to the wardens. So, David, you're live on the show. Do you got some questions for the fellas here?
Hey, Eric. First I'd like to thank both Eric and Brad for wearing the uniform of the conservation officers and, serving the people of Wisconsin, and Brad for, being in the national, the Navy Reserves, serving this country. I, want to thank him very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brad, you said like on the myths, when you guys show up, the people get nervous. I always enjoy like when the Illinois Conservation Police officers show up. When most of the time it's been when I've been fishing, and we'll sit there, and most of the times the encounter will turn into like a 10-minute conversation about how things are going, what I'm fishing for, if I'm getting anything, and topics on even like, the conditions and everything else. And so, yeah, I always enjoy, encounters with our conservation officers.
Yeah, I echo that, David.
Yeah.
I do as well. They have
Thank
good
you.
tips, and they're in the woods all the time. It's kind of like who's been dragging deer out of here. What have you seen? You just don't tell you.
Yeah.
Driving around all those public spots, they know where a few big bucks are hiding.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Any specific questions or anything like that, David? Or just calling to
Yeah.
say thanks?
For both Brad and Eric, what is the one thing that why you wanted to get into be a conservation officer? What is that one thing?
Good question.
I guess I can go first if you want, Eric.
Yeah, go for it, Brad.
So, the passion of the outdoors has always been one of my biggest passions. I grew up fishing Geneva Lake, and me and my dad always were catching fish. And one day, a warden pulled up, and like you said, we talked for 10 minutes. And ever since that moment, I've always wanted to do this job. Sometime it has fallen off the back burner, and then being in the military, working with some other game and fish agencies or DNR agencies really lit the fire under me to really go for it, because I have kids now that just love the outdoors. My daughter loves fishing. My son, he loves turkey hunting. So I just want to make sure that for future, just as much as I enjoyed it with my dad. So that's the biggest reason why I do this job.
Good luck following that one. That
Yeah,
was pretty good.
that was pretty
legit.
that was very good from Brad. I think he probably rehearsed that, but I would say that answer is probably somewhat universal with a lot of us that are wardens, where we may not all engage in every single activity that wardens recreate or regulate, but a lot of us are passionate about a lot of those different activities. So for me specifically, very avid hunter, fisher, and I just find it to be extraordinarily rewarding to turn something that I'm very passionate about into a career. And, it's something where, it's still really cool, where I'm getting paid to wake up early, to go drive around on opening morning of gun deer season, to see the sunrise, listen to the gunshots, and still get to be involved and engaged and have a role that I may not be the one that's out there harvesting at that exact moment, but I have the ability to be out there still participating, ensuring people are having a safe, fun time while following all of our rules and regulations. So I think that's just really enjoyable.
I think that's got to be one of the, I don't want to speak for you, but that seems like it would be. I mean, we've all been in the woods when a friend or a buddy, harvests something, and you get to be a part, maybe the tail end of that. But I bet you get to have a lot of great encounters with people who maybe had great experiences fishing or hunting and bagged their first this or that. And you kind of get to be a part of a lot of those different scenarios and be there as a bystander or a helping hand to make sure everything from there on goes well.
Yeah. No, it's not uncommon for me to play a role as a net man or to
You're here.
start taking some photos.
It's funny you mentioned that. There was a first-time hunter 2 years ago, using public land in Walworth County, harvested a deer, and I got to help him track it. So it was it was a rewarding just being there by his side and watching his reaction. I mean, granted, it was a doe, but everybody needs meat, right? So it was really really rewarding to help him just kind of go over some tips and tricks of what to do if you do lose blood. Look for snap sticks, yada yada yada. So it was really rewarding to do that.
And what better way to recruit people than to leave a positive experience behind with what you did? And I kind of was thinking about that before when you guys were talking about recruitment and like what it takes to be an officer. You got to know a lot of technical information about a lot of different things, but how much of it would you say is just about your interactions with people and the communication aspect? Like me being a teacher, I know some teachers who are amazing at their subject. They're passionate about it, but the people part, maybe they lack a little bit. So it's harder to translate to people to communicate with like the students. But I know people who know very little, I would say, about like the fine tune, but they're great teachers because of how they interact and they just make it a pleasant place to be. So do you see that at all in your profession, that like the communication aspect is almost as important?
Yeah, I would say the communication is essential for wardens, and a lot of other law enforcement officers to be successful in their job. While oftentimes we're able to encounter people while they're out recreating, having fun, there still is potential for you to encounter people that are in a stressful situation, having a bad day, maybe something bad happened involved in a recreational vehicle accident or something. And it's important to be able to talk with them, calm them down, kind of get a grasp on the situation, and be able to kind of diffuse tensions, and go from there. So yeah, having that communication skill is really tremendous.
David, thanks for the call.
Yep. Y'all have a great night, and Brad and Eric, y'all be safe out there when you're out patrolling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Good night.
Good night, David. Keep posting all those great fishing pictures, buddy.
He's been fishing a ton lately.
Yeah.
I'm really jealous of it. All the fishing he's doing. Maybe not jealous. I'm happy for him. But he's been slaying the largemouth. One of the questions or comments that came through, I'll toss it up on the screen, from a friend of ours, Ryan Longren. Have you guys talked about hunter harassment? And to answer his question, we haven't yet, but that is something where like hunters can get harassed by others. You see the viral videos on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram of like someone fishing too close to a pier, and some angry woman comes out and says, "I'm going to call the police and the wardens, and you can't fish here." And he's like, "Well, it's a public waterway. I can. If you're uncomfortable with it, I'll keep going on, but that's where the fish are." And so that's one example. Obviously, there's others. I think there's a viral video. Not that they're all having viral videos, but these are just potentially good ones to like center around it from a conversation standpoint. There is some goose hunters, and a guy came up and was like, "You're on my property," and like, "Well, we're not on your property." And the guy proceeded to just self-escalate and get really, really upset. I mean, people are like, in some cases are pulling guns. It can get pretty dicey out there when you're dealing with like land ownership and trespassing. Those are just some of the conduits that might lead into like a hunter being harassed by someone that doesn't hunt. I had an encounter, and I'll get to letting you guys talk. 2 years ago when we were filming our show, and I was putting a canoe in. Of course, I did all my homework, right? I can put in here, this is public, it just opened up, yada yada yada. I was really excited about it, and a gal walking by was like, "You can't hunt here." Why? I know I can't hunt here. I'm gonna hunt down there, so I'm putting my canoe in the river. She's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, I'm positive. I've done my homework. And she was like, "What are you gonna do? Just go out there and drink beer and maim animals?" I'm like, absolutely not.
That is not the plan.
It's not what we do. And I actually was able to talk with her for like, unfortunately, too long, because I needed to get out to my spot. But I think I talked to her for like 15 minutes, and at the end of the conversation, she's like, "I'm glad I met you. You changed my purview on hunters, and they're not all beer drinking, injuring animals." I'm like, I'm not sure where that thought came from for you or how you got introduced to that, but it's folks like that might not understand what we do outdoors that might harass a hunter. And then that's where I don't know how many calls you guys get with that kind of stuff, but I'd be interested to hear any stories you have.
15 minutes, probably the best time you could spend. You know what I mean? Like you just turn someone's perception around, which is pretty impressive. Sorry.
Yeah, it felt a little like heated out of the gate. She was definitely, when you're getting in a confrontation, you can tell you're getting a surge of adrenaline.
Something she was obviously passionate about.
She was
right?
getting
she was protecting.
Yes.
She was...
Yeah. good way to put it. Very mother bear over her nature. I see the deer. We love the deer. I'm like, I love the deer too. My daughter loves to eat them.
Brad, you got any examples you want to provide?
Actually, down by me, the biggest thing when it comes to hunter harassment is really just what I like to tell people is don't make the argument even more heated. Go ahead and try to walk away from the situation. The biggest thing is if you did catch them on film doing something, that just helps us with the investigation, because ultimately us as the wardens, we have to prove intent. Were they intentionally out there disrupting your hunting or your fishing? Is that why they were out there? So that's the biggest thing for us when it comes to those investigations, is trying to figure out the intent of that person. So the biggest thing that we as wardens don't want is any engagement, fighting. Just walk away from the situation. And like you stated, that is another thing. If you can try to calm the situation down and talk to them, and you may end up changing somebody's views on hunting.
Yeah, I deal with it not necessarily more on the hunting side.
It's a little bit different. In an urban area, you probably have more non-hunting folks.
Yeah, and I would say I deal with it maybe a little bit more on some of our rivers where, during a fall salmon run or something along those lines, we can get a lot of users that are out there trying to target one specific hole or something along those lines. And there can be some user conflict of, hey, I'm here, this is my spot, and somebody's trying to cast over them or whatever it is. Yeah, I similar to what Brad said, we don't want people to escalate those situations. We have a role to play as wardens, and we don't, we enjoy when people are able to safely, document whatever's going on for us. That aids us in our investigation.
So just wear a GoPro.
Yeah, but at the same time, we don't want people, to further escalate it by, trying to argue that point. Give us a call, let us know what's going on. It seems like a vast majority of these situations, contact between both parties, us as wardens being able to talk to people. And
sorry about that.
No,
Good ringtone.
Rookie move there on my part. I don't know how to make that stop.
First time.
But yeah, I guess us as wardens being able to talk to the hunter and understand what happened from their side of the things, potentially being able to also talk to that other landowner or other party and be able to understand their side of the things. Normally we're able to come to some agreeable resolution out of understanding.
Yeah.
I guess that would be a case by case scenario, but man, I think sometimes one of the easiest ways to escalate a situation or to really piss somebody off who's already elevated would be to take out your phone and start filming them, right? Like, I get how that aids in the investigation, but like that's how these YouTube videos go viral, is because they like want to get somebody riled up, watch. So like that may not be always in your best interest. You got to watch out for yourself. And if that's not going to be the good call,
it's a really great
maybe
parenting
put the phone
tactic.
away.
My kid's having a temper tantrum. I'm like, watch this. You're going to show this to your teacher.
Oh, they don't like that.
And they're like, they stop. So, I mean, I don't know, Derek. Like, maybe.
Right, this season, we're going to do you videotape everybody. I'll videotape nobody.
And then we just happened to be, and I think Jace was out when that gal was around. So he didn't get it on camera.
It's probably for the best.
I mean, he could have, because we could have just blurred out the face. But there's rules around, like, recording and things like that. So, unfortunately, it wasn't. And we ran to another hunter in public, and we didn't film that either. But that was another great positive interaction where I think we made friends. And we're all out there trying to experience something similar. Not the exact same thing, because we all have our own way of coming to the world and seeing it. But, if we kind of can acknowledge that we're sharing a resource, and that in and of itself is a positive thing. I understand if someone's casting over someone's line, it's a dick move, and that could frustrate someone. And I know when like the walleyes are running, those boats get awfully close. It's like a war zone out there. If the wrong people come in contact, You
Or-
might.
When I lived up in Peshtigo, the
Yeah.
Peshtigo River from the Bay of Green Bay, any river that's an inlet from the Bay, the O'Connell River, all those just get tons of walleye spawning up there. And before school, I'd drive in the morning and there would be, hundreds of people lined up shoulder to shoulder. And people would always ask, "Did you fish the walleye run?" I was like, "Nope, not once." Why not? I was like, "That's not my idea of fishing. Like, I like to go to relax, not to deal with that kind of stress." So I just didn't do that. But like,
I
yeah,
couldn't imagine. Boat ramps are a stressful place to begin with, anyways. I can't back up a trailer to save my life.
He's not lying.
Creates a lot of like stress for me, and then others are getting frustrated. This freaking guy. I'm like,
how long is it gonna take, buddy?
Hey, you can. I have. Let me tell you how much. I have no problem at all. I have no shame. You can get in my truck and drive it for me. You do a better job. I'm not being an ass when I say you do it. Like literally, you can do it, and maybe we'll all have a better day.
I don't want to get into like too mega specific situations, but talking about like sharing the resource, one thing that I've always heard come up is, and I guess it doesn't matter if it's a deer was shot on public or private, but when they cross onto another property owner and property owners don't allow permission, how does that whole scenario work? 'Cause I've heard of that, and like you can't, the wardens I've heard can't even do anything. Like the person has to grant you access. Do you guys run into that situation? Do you get calls on that? Or is that a pretty common one, or is that a pretty isolated event?
Eric's looking at Brad, I think.
Go ahead, Eric.
Bradley's
You
nodding his
got
head.
it, buddy.
Yeah, well,
You got it,
unfortunately, that is not a scenario where we are always able to provide the assistance that the hunter may want. We don't have the authority to tell to make that property owner have to let
Yep.
let you on.
That's what property owners love, is when you tell them what they can and can't do.
Yeah,
on property.
exactly. Everyone loves
Yeah.
being told what they can and cannot do on their own land. One thing I would encourage is, as a responsible hunter, know where you're going to be hunting. If it is a smaller property where you may have issues with, a deer running across your property or something along those lines, try and go meet your neighbors ahead of time. Let them know what you're going to be up to. Let them know where you're going to be at, and ask them, hey, if this situation does occur, can I call you? Do I need to call you, or is it okay for me to go on over? But I think a lot of, when there's that opportunity to plan ahead of time, I think that's the best way to avoid those circumstances. Granted, I know you can't plan for everything. Sometimes you hit a deer poorly and it runs a mile. And
Yeah, right. I don't know that person.
But the more you can do ahead of time to make those relationships ahead of time, I think that's going to help people avoid that situation.
Well, I'm no conservation warden, but my advice is get it in writing. Text message. When I asked for permission to hunt where I got this guy, it was all via text. It was a bit intentional, because it's like, hey, can you hunt this property? Hey, this is the property owner. This is his phone number. This is his name. He said, yes, you can hunt it on these days. This is the day I'm here. And I think, if someone were to like go, oh, yeah, you can hunt it. Oh, I forgot I had that conversation. I don't remember the day. Like, that could get a little fuzzy. I think there's, like, from the permission standpoint of all the folks that are knocking on doors now because of the GIS mapping, Spartan Forge, Onyx, so forth. Like, I don't know if that's a legal thing. If you have to get in writing, some states require you to. I just think it's a good idea regardless. I don't know what our stance is on it here in Wisconsin, but
yeah. Go ahead, Brett.
Oh, okay. So Wisconsin, you don't need written consent. But it, like you said, it is always a great idea to have it. I myself, I text the landowner every time I go hunting, and just to let her know and let them know, respect their property, just because that's what we do as hunters and fishermen, is we respect the outdoors. We respect other people's property. So we don't want to lose that. Right. So, it's definitely a good idea to get it in writing. Legally, do you need it? No.
sure.
That preemptive approach is gotta always be best though, because if you can make a positive first interaction, you're a step ahead. And if it's before season, I feel like that makes a big difference, because in the middle of, you shoot a buck on November 5th and you're asking to go tramp through somebody's property when they're likely out hunting or someone they care about or related to is out hunting, it's a lot harder to get a yes than if you had met them and shown you're a good person 4 months earlier. And then they said, oh, yeah, I'll go with you real quick. And I just see that being a lot more successful all
Food
the way
helps
around.
too. Like you could always,
Yeah.
Here's a gift card to your favorite restaurant. Here's a meal that I like to cook. Here's some beer. Like peace offerings are also, they go a long way. You know, definitely not a must have, but Greg and I hunt that farm that he's got access to, and we have delivered a couple of 30 packs there over the years. and he knows them well anyways, but it's like, you didn't have to do that. No, we didn't, but you didn't have to let us hunt here either.
Yep.
And it's something that we don't want to take for granted. We, on the podcast last week, we ended the show, or towards the end of the show, someone had commented on the live broadcast about an interesting tactic I had never considered. I thought it was a very fascinating idea, but I was
The turkey?
yeah,
hunting?
using deer decoys during turkey hunting or hunting, or vice versa, using turkey decoys during deer hunting season. I know turkeys are in season in the fall, so maybe that can work. But the whole concept was they made the target species more comfortable in their experience. And then we had posted about that clip, and I think on TikTok it went close to 60,000 views, and you can imagine the comments. And most people are like, yeah, I do that. It's amazing. And others like, hey, yeah, I don't know if you can legally do that because that's not the target species. And you have to be careful. Kind of like you can't fish for this species. You can't target the species of fish if it's not in season, even if you're. So I don't know if you guys have you heard of that? Is that a thing? Like, since you're here, hey,
It's a pretty
Warden,
weird one.
let me ask you a question real quick. What are your thoughts on this? And if you don't have the right answer, you don't have to answer. You could say, I'll get back to you.
That's a new one for me. I don't know if Brad's gotten that call before, but I have not gotten that call.
I have not gotten that call. But I guess what comes into my mind is what else are they carrying? There's a lot when it comes to involved in hunting. Obviously, if they're hunting turkey, obviously if they have a rifle round with a deer decoy,
That's a good point. Okay.
then we have different
That's
issues.
no
But if
problem.
they're out there with TSS shot with a 410, then we have a different ball game, right? So I've never heard that question, but I
We
have
like
heard
to
of
find
people.
where the rules are, and then get right up to that line and see.
If you guys
Yeah.
are driving around the next few weeks during turkey season, you see like 8 deer decoys. You know,
Well,
those
I've
idiots
also-
listen to the OKS 100
Yeah.
podcast.
I've also heard of guys using doe bleat cans when they're walking in at night or early in the morning, for turkey hunting if they're sneaking into a roost, because fawns are naturally loud little creatures.
Yeah.
So they'll use a doe bleat. I've heard that. So
I've definitely used turkey calls walking in the deer
Yeah,
woods to
mouse
cover
calls,
my
yep.
own. But like, yeah,
Sound
that's a
weird.
the fawn call. That's a great idea too.
Look at these ideas. We're
Look at all these
floating around
crossroads. Beaver calls.
What?
Whatever you got.
Beaver call. Well, I joked. I was like, I want to make a whole nativity scene. Let's get some goose out there. Like, let's make it like a nature party. The deer won't know what's going on.
I have a buddy that I went to college with who's sending me pictures about his turkey hunt, and they're very flocked up right now. So he's got all these like 6 toms that keep coming into the field he's hunting. He's hunting, I think, with this recurve. So he's trying to get him close. Can't get him within 60. And he sends me a picture like yesterday morning or whatever. And he's like, hey, they're all back out again, but they still won't come in. And I look at the foreground of the picture, and outside his blind, he's got about 8 turkey decoys. And I said, oh, you put the whole spread out. And he's like, well, they got a flock. So do I. He said he borrowed them from his neighbors, whoever he could get them from. Good idea.
Pretty great. Well,
Didn't
that
work.
yeah, it didn't work. I don't need to go over there. They already got a whole flock. That's too intimidating. It's like going to a networking party. There's a lot of people in that corner. Like, they probably all know each other. I'm not gonna disrupt that party.
Do you get a lot from folks you come in contact with? Do you get a lot of like people being upset with policy? Like, you guys are there to enforce it, right? And make sure everybody's safe. Do you get people complaining a lot about like, oh, if that was a stupid rule, it wasn't like this, and like thinking that you're in charge of like, do you know what I mean? Is that I would imagine you get
I just
a lot of
enforce the rules. I don't make
feedback.
them.
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon for somebody to disagree with a law, and it's something where everyone sees that, probably when it comes to driving a car, why is the speed limit 35 here and not, so I mean, I think that's a universal thing that occurs throughout. You know, oftentimes people, you know, look at us, and obviously, you know, being in uniform and being in a position of authority, you know, we are, and directly in front of them, you know, it's easy to have us be somebody that, you know, they want to vent to. And I'm entirely open to listening to some of those things, as long as it's, you know, somewhat reasonable
Stay calm.
yeah, exactly. You know,
Constructive.
Again, it's like
yeah,
talking to my kids. Just stay calm.
yeah. You know, if somebody's just sitting there swearing at me, you know, we'll probably end that conversation rather quickly. But at the same time, you know, people, also, you know, a lot of that stems from being passionate about,
That's a good point.
you know,
Yep.
being out there and enjoying those different resources, and having, you know, strong belief on how that should be, done to ensure their, you know, enjoyment. Um, and you know, if there is that ability to have, you know, that back and forth, you know, oftentimes, you know, we can try and explain, you know, maybe why a certain regulation or law is in place. And you know, sometimes, you know, people, it doesn't matter what you say, they aren't gonna, necessarily agree or disagree. But you know, if you can kind of get a little bit of, you know, maybe that why, out there, you know, sometimes that can help, uh, temper that passion, or you know, that understanding of yeah, how things go. And the great thing also about the state of Wisconsin is, you know, there is a citizen, ability for people to, you know, comment and, you know, propose different, you know, regulations and changes. And you know, that's another avenue to be able to steer people towards, if they, you know, are very passionate about a certain area.
I think we just shared that out in the last couple of weeks, the spring
Yeah.
questionnaire, and go to your spring
Yep.
hearings for your different zones and
I mean,
deer
yeah,
council and committees.
yep.
One of the, I know we're getting towards the top of the hour here. We're at it, but I know we had a semi late start because of tech stuff. But I did want to hear some war stories from you guys. You know, I don't know what kind of juicy stuff you guys got on the bone that you're willing to share on a live podcast. But I know that was one of the things in the bullet points here that I was like, well, this is something I'm really looking forward to hearing. Maybe it's not that juicy and I'm overselling it, but Brad, the tenured warden on the call, the conservation officer, what do you got to share on that subject?
Well, what stories do you want to know?
Well, you know, it's like you talk to anytime there's a cop at a party, you're like, all right, let's hear the stories. They're like, well, I can't tell you these ones because it's too much.
I
So
can tell you one of my favorite. I'll tell you one of my favorite cases that I worked with in Wisconsin. We were running a decoy, and I was working with a newer officer at the time, and we were sitting on one of our shining fields with a decoy, and we actually saw a vehicle come down. It was past the shining hours, and they started shining the vehicles. And we had a ton of shining complaints. We've had at this location, we had a ton of shining complaints, illegal shining complaints, that is. And then we also had some dead deer carcasses as well, with heads cut off. So we worked the complaint, and the newer officer saw the individual shine the field right away and was gung ho about getting out there and getting them. And we just, me and the other officers, there were four of us there. We just kind of calmed that guy down and said, just wait, let's let this draw out. And as soon as I said, let's just wait, we saw a knocked arrow go flying and stick right into our decoy. So, yeah,
Silent killer.
yeah, we
Was it a
actually
buck
got,
decoy? Sorry to interrupt.
what
Was it an
that?
antlered decoy? Was it an antlered, like a buck decoy?
No, it was actually a coyote decoy that we had out.
Really?
Yeah, it was something a little different. So, yeah, we had a couple violations there, and made a good deer case out of it as well. So that was one of my favorite stories in Wisconsin. So
Wow.
That's interesting because you can predator hunt at night. But you
so
can't shine.
that's where
Yeah.
people can get confused. If you're actually archery hunting coyotes in the evening during the deer season, you actually, if you're using a bow or a crossbow, you have to follow shooting hours. If
Okay.
you're using a rifle, you don't have to follow shooting hours.
I did not know that.
So
I've never shined with a bow, but like that's interesting. That actually, can I ask a real quick question?
yeah,
I
for
told
sure.
my mom that we were talking to you guys, and she's really into the outdoors, and she had a question. I don't think either of you have bears in your county, but up at the cabin where my parents are at, we do some bear hunting. If you shot a bear and tracked it at night and had a sidearm, and that bear was wounded but like immobile, can you legally finish the bear, or do you have to wait till morning, or how does that work at night? You know, you've got a light, you've got like a sidearm. Is it illegal to dispatch that bear, or is it legal?
A lot of gray.
I don't know how my mom came up with that. She's like, I got a question. Ask this.
Yeah, you would not be able to dispatch that bear.
You'd have to wait till morning.
Yeah, you'd have to wait till it was legal.
Shooting hours. Okay.
Legal
Or
shooting.
it could like, yeah, when's too late to call a warden?
Um,
Because you'd be like, if you felt bad it was suffering, could you be like, hey, this is a situation, can you come out? Because if I hit it with my car and a police officer showed up, they'd kill it. That's my logic, anyways.
yeah,
But
no, I understand that. You know, overall, before you're going to make a decision like that, I would contact, try and get a hold of somebody. You know, it's never necessarily too late. I would say if it's you're calling a warden, I would use good discretion. You know, if it's something a little lower level, trying to
don't call me. Yeah.
yeah, you don't need to be calling me at 2 a.m. if it's a question. That's
But
pretty.
I wouldn't want to be tracking a bear at night. Let's just start there. Like, to your mom, she's batshit crazy. Like, she's a.
You've met us.
Yeah, I mean, and she's a nice lady. I'm not. I know this is public and she's listening. I don't mean it that negatively. I just mean like she's a badass if she's trying to track a bear in the middle of the night. Like, no thanks. I will wait till morning just so I can, not be scared pooping my pants and having a different problem. Like,
Yeah, and maybe that's something that would come up in that conversation of do you really need to be doing this right now? So
good question.
yeah,
Bear opens early.
no,
It
and
can be
and
warm out. You know what
I-
I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, oh yeah.
and you
It's
say that
fairly
we
feasible.
don't have to deal with bears, but I did
it's
have
fairly
to.
feasible. In my mind, it is.
I did get a call from my local sheriff's department about a bear getting hit on I-43 in Hales Corners.
Really?
Hell's Corner. Holy
And
shit. Wow.
having to go out
What,
there
in
and
Whitnell Park over there.
yeah, and collect a bear off the side of the freeway during rush hour traffic on like a
Speed races
Tuesday.
on
You don't
Highway
see
100
that
hitting
a lot.
bears.
No,
Magic
and
bear.
I'm sure Brad's had one wander through his county on occasion.
There was one here in Dousman / Oconomowoc this last season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean maybe it was more than one. I don't know. But I know the adolescent ones will cover some ground. But I had a story that I was going to share that was similar to that where Shining. Yeah, to your point, Brad. I when I was in college, I was doing a report, or like I was in school to be a graphic designer and a media degree, a web media degree. So we had to
Imagine
do videography course, and so we had to like do a storyboard, a narrative, a whole thing. And so I of course picked hunting, and I did this. It's still on YouTube right now. It's very cheesy, but it was like how to get into hunting. And one of the things you do, you can go shine for deer to like pattern their behaviors and see if they're on. So I'm with my now wife. We were dating at the time, and I'm in
This is how you won Holly over, taking her shining.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Hey, I got to do this homework assignment. I have to go shine for deer. I'm not kidding. Like, you got to film it. and we pull up on 164 in Pewaukee. There's always deer in this field. So I'm like, this will be an easy thing. And I'm shining and I'm not seeing much. And then a cop pulls up behind me, turns the lights on. I'm like, why? I'm like, I get in trouble for the dumbest shit, like, damn it. I'm like, I wonder if I broke a law. Like, I don't. So then, of course, I go into full on panic mode out the gate. And he comes to the car. I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't know, And he's like, I was just seeing what you're up to. I was like, well, I'm shining. I got this paper, not paper, the homework assignment. I got to make this video. He's like, I know a real good spot. Why don't you follow me? And so then we led us to this like secret road by a water tower in Pewaukee on like private land. He's like, well, this is public access. You can park here and shine. There's always big bucks and deer. And I was like, I just got a private escort to this spot to shine for big bucks. I couldn't believe it. I was like, and so that where I was shining in the video, that was the spot. And it was beautiful.
That's cool.
And so I was like, went from like, complete panic without even knowing what had happened. Cause of course I'm just panicking out the gate to like, oh great. I'm going to get my girlfriend arrested with me for my homework assignment. I'm like, this cop's not going to believe me. That's what I'm doing. But I'm like, I could show you the assignment if you need. Anyway. So And yeah, I don't know if you got any other war stories of like the decoy one's interesting with the coyote. That's you see a lot of those on like the Northwoods Law and all that.
Yeah.
Get out of the car now. They're like, you got a lot going on here with the uniform. Like, at what point do you have deadly force capabilities? Or
Yeah.
like...
Yeah. We are fully sworn law enforcement officers within the state of Wisconsin. So yeah, we carry a duty weapon, taser, handcuffs, all those different things. We have the ability to encounter, the same things that any other law enforcement officer may encounter. And, similar, like in our wrecked vehicle world, ATVs, boats, and snowmobiles, we're very concerned with safety there. So one of the big things that we
Those are very dangerous vehicles. Like, they're not as safe as your Toyota Camry.
So, we prioritize, OWI enforcement on those things and making sure people are operating safely. And, anytime you're dealing with extremely intoxicated people, things can
usually
easily
boating, probably, right?
I mean, boating's definitely one area. But yeah, I mean, in general, in the wrecked vehicle world, that's that happens. And it's important that, we are able to handle any situations that may occur there. Similarly, when it comes to encountering, hunters and everyone else, people can get, very passionate about doing those things. And sometimes there can be some heated, conflict that occurs. And especially when you have people that are armed, it's important that we're able to, protect ourselves and protect the public.
Yeah. Still waiting for a story, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess an example of that, working in Milwaukee, we get tasked with a lot of different special events. So not uncommon for us to, provide our expertise on the water, for things, like when the Milwaukee Bucks had their playoff run, we had wardens on the water. And pulling people out of the water that were jumping into the water in downtown Milwaukee. There also were a couple different instances where we had armed subjects, and potentially intending to do harm, where we've had to respond to those circumstances.
You ever have any where it's like animal on the loose that shouldn't be?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess one of the more memorable ones for me is in West Allis. We had a deer that bashed through a screen door and went into the second floor of a residence
Oh no,
house.
That's bad news.
Yeah, so I got a call from the West Allis dispatch saying that they had their officers all tied up with something else. And,
yeah, we need a natural resource officer.
Yeah, we need a natural resource officer to help get this deer out of this house.
Like a scene out of Super Troopers.
Very much so. And yeah, I climbed on the roof of the garage and was looking into one of the bedroom windows, and there was a little basket rack 8-pointer.
Just
confused as can be. I think he had clothing, women's underwear on his antlers, and blood
Full
ripping out of his
this one's too small.
dripping
This
out of
one's
his
too
hand.
big.
And eventually, myself and a couple other wardens, we were able to. One was able to sneak up the stairs. I think I climbed through a bathroom window. And
that's traumatic for the homeowner. There's blood in their house. Like, that's
it was a mess
scene.
in the house.
Yeah, traumatic for everybody.
It was an absolute mess in the house.
Like...
And eventually we were able to kind of tunnel this animal and had somebody come in from behind and basically bump it and blocked off so it couldn't go down the hallway. So the only option was to go down the stairs. And it kind of charged out of the bedroom. Hit the other wall that we had to block it, and ran back down the stairs, out the screen door that was broken open, and back into Whitnell Park or wherever.
Your Ring doorbell.
You wind bumped it through the saddle.
Yeah, exactly. That was definitely
wild.
one of the better deer drives I've been a part of.
So the deer was okay?
Yeah, the house was a mess though.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Between broken glass, broken furniture. And it was a very sweet older couple
Oh.
that
Why did your insurance policy cover
Were
that
they
one?
okay?
yeah,
They got out?
they were okay. I think the husband, if I remember correctly, stood fast in the kitchen and was there to protect the house, and we had to do our best to get him to a safer situation.
Wow.
Just due to how powerful those animals can be.
Well, especially in close quarters where they're not sure what the hell's going on.
Yeah,
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 they're
100%.
scared. They don't even know what the hell's going on.
Yep.
What scent brought me to this place?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yikes.
We got turkeys coming into roost or right across the street here.
Yeah.
There's an old abandoned golf course. We got deer and turkey coming through. I saw a woodchuck the other day coming into the yard. We got bird feeders out. Like,
Yeah.
there was this is a lot of selfish questions, guys, because you're here. I forget. I talked about this last week too. I think was I forget which rule or regulation was, but you can hunt your own personal private property. I thought or think, and I could probably go find the regulation on it, but I forget the parameters. It has to be within a certain range of the dwelling or something like that.
Yeah, one thing I would caution
But,
on
like-
that is there's a difference between the state law and municipal ordinances.
For your like township or whatever.
Yeah, so
Eric, don't shoot a deer in your backyard.
Don't do it.
ensure
Gonna run
that
into-
yeah, so make sure that if you are in maybe a potentially more urban area or something along those lines, that not only are you following state laws, but that you are also following whatever municipal ordinances they may have regarding whatever type of weapons you can discharge. I know there's some different unique and kind of different things that come into play there. So just
They're
caution
all
that.
different too. Like where Matt
Very
is up
much.
by him, like you have to go to the police department
Yeah,
and
get certain
I
permits
think
from
you just
them.
buy it. Like I don't think you have to
yeah,
apply for it, but you pay $20 and you get like a discharge permit to shoot your crossbow or your bow and arrow.
Yeah.
Within whatever.
Yeah, if you're in
municipality
Mequon or something.
Yeah, I think that is Mequon
yeah.
is where Matt's at. So I remember him telling me, "Hey, make sure if you go to that public spot."
Oh yeah, so it's good to know having some of that local travel knowledge. What's the other? Oh God, my brain is just not remembering what I wanted to remember tonight. It doesn't matter. Good point. Well made. Also good point. Well made. I don't know what I was going to say something in relation to that. And now I don't remember what it was, but I do remember. It's Lee Ellis with Seek One. Huge social following, urban hunting. They kind of like were the ones that kind of like illuminated that as a thing. And he had told a story on the show 2 years ago or something about they're hunting urban areas, small tracks. And he's like, we tracked a buck through several yards. Obviously had to go get permission. But like there had been likely some sort of college party the night before. And so we had tracked a deer and literally the blood trail like went over a sleeping human body that was passed out in the backyard with, a bunch of red Solo cups. So this dude had like deer blood all over him and didn't even know it.
And I don't know if it was that story or a different one, but one of their deer like died in a
pool.
swimming pool.
He
And
said,
it was
the
like
insurance
their
costs
whole
on
pool
that.
was full of blood.
Yeah, it's like a scene out of the horse in the pool. What's that? The gangster movie. Can't think of anything right now, but because my brain is shutting down on me, it might be a good time to bring the plane in for landing. Can you just share the resources? Like I think I may have interrupted somewhere along the way when I was like, how do people get a hold of you? Like, how do I get a hold of a warden? Do I have to channel through the main customer service number?
So the best recommendation, and I guess it depends a little bit
but-
on the circumstance.
Yep.
So if you are out in the field and you observe a violation, you're driving back home at night and it's after 10 p.m. and you see somebody shoot a deer from the road or something along those lines, and you're trying to report a DNR violation, the best resource is to call our DNR tip line, our violation hotline, which is 1-800-TIP-DNR or tip WDNR, something like that.
I have the number if you want me to give it.
Yeah, 847 something
9367. 1-800-847-9367.
So that's the number one way that we encourage people to call in if they are seeing a violation and want to report that into the DNR or a warden. Best reasons for doing that versus calling a warden specifically. While wardens are often available at all hours, we do have
Lives.
Families,
you know,
kids.
we may be on vacation, we may be, have childcare responsibilities, whatever it is.
We may be in
so
military barracks.
yeah, you
never
may
know.
be in a military barracks. So that calling that DNR tip line, what that does is we have some staff that is then able to send that out to who is the nearest warden that is on duty or are able to respond depending on what type of violation it is. But people can contact us directly. Again, steer people to that DNR website.
Yeah, you don't have to give out the other number if you like. You don't have to.
Well, our
you
numbers
could.
are publicly accessible on the DNR's website. There's the staff
go to the
directory.
I was gonna.
Yeah.
I think I've looked it up before. When I was up in Pesher, there was a gentleman I'd run into a number of times, and I used to like contact him if I had any specific question. He was always very friendly and good to reach out.
Yeah,
leave me alone. I don't know where the mosquito bite.
you can search by county. You can search for warden in that particular county, or a lot of us during field contacts.
Give out our business
we
cards.
recognize who's out there, who can be an extra set of eyes for us, who's a good resource, or just in general, if anybody asks like, hey, how can I get a hold of you? We're happy to share a business card, happy to share our phone numbers normally, and be a resource for people.
Awesome.
Great. Well, I appreciate you guys taking. I mean, you're on the clock here, but thanks for being on the show. This is a unique one for us. And
awesome.
You guys are welcome back anytime. I think it might actually be really interesting to have you guys on before deer season starts to go over any updated rules, regulations, and we could field some calls and so forth. Brad, did you have any other? Yeah, thank you very much, and good luck with the active duty deployment and all that stuff.
Yeah, and thank you guys for giving up your seasons to help the people of Wisconsin. Right. You know what I mean? Like, because that's one of the things you love to hunt and fish. Well, now those are your busy seasons.
Well, one thing I will say that may be a myth.
That's another myth.
So it does not by any means mean that we don't get to hunt or fish also. Our department is doing a great job at trying to ensure that we have a good work-life balance. So one of the things that makes us passionate about hunting and fishing is engaging in hunting and fishing. So, we are encouraged, to still get out there, engage in those activities. We may not be doing it on a typical Saturday, Sunday, but sometimes being able to get out on a Wednesday or Thursday,
it's less crowded.
Not quite as crowded.
Can't wear your uniform.
Yeah.
That would be cheating.
Yeah. But, we still have the ability to get out and about and enjoy all those different recreational opportunities.
Well, that's a great little nod in there for the recruitment too. If you're thinking about it, or if that's a field or a job that potentially you're thinking about it, you're not going to give up all of your time.
No, it is not a death sentence to your ability to still get out and engage in those activities yourself.
Yeah,
that's great.
Correct.
Well, thanks a lot, gentlemen. I'm going to end the live broadcast, and Brad, if you want to hang on for just a second, we'll do a quick debrief and then let you guys go on with the rest of your day. So everybody that tuned in, thank you very much for tuning in. Reminder, check out our partners, Nosler, Latitude, Spartan Forge Rack Hub. I end it with that because I normally don't, and want to make sure we give those guys the support for supporting us and helping pay for all the stuff that keeps this thing going, because there's a lot of technology in this room, albeit breaking all the time.
We wreck a lot of stuff.
we push it to the limit, we really do. So no, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next week. I don't know if we have a guest or not. What do we have? I'll just take a quick peek. We have no guest next week. What's the date today? It's the
24th.
23rd.
Yeah.
My phone on me, so it's hard for me to see a calendar here. But yeah, the next guest we do have is do we have a Tuesday, May 7th is this might be is this your buddy Derek Nicholas?
Yeah, from Colorado.
Okay, so that's and then Maddie with Nosler is the 11th. So sounds like tequila with your buddy is going to be in order then.
Sounds good.
So hopefully you're actually in studio for that one. We'll see. And yeah, with that, we'll let everybody go. But thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you soon.
Have a good night.